Right then, welcome back to the channel. Stephen Howson. I'm in a garden in London. Not my usual set, obviously. Today we're going to talk about Ollie Watkins and Marcus Rashford and a potential deal that could be on the cards here. Laurie reported last couple of days about Ollie Watkins finding himself on Manchester United's list, and my initial thoughts of this is, and actually no, my second and third thoughts on this are, that's a really good signing. United have done a lot of business in recent years, Rasmus Højlund being one of them, where we've kind of gambled on somebody being for the future, and at the same time never really done a lot for the here and now. The money being talked about for Ollie Watkins, somewhere in the region of 60 million, and the requirement to sell Rasmus Højlund first. It doesn't feel like you're setting yourselves up for a future. Ollie Watkins is 29, and at 29 you've probably got 3 years of him being effective. But 3 years of him being effective versus 5 years of somebody else not being effective is probably preferable to us at the moment. And when you sort of zoom out a little bit and look at the slightly bigger picture in terms of what United have done, or could potentially do if Ollie Watkins actually gets over the line, and in a greater or lesser extent, it was kind of what the strategy was, albeit in a younger version, with Delap. What United have gone and done, I think, could end up being very smart. Now, the proof of that is in the pudding. When we get it down and we see it on the pitch, we'll know whether that's been the smart thing or not. United's greatest success in all the time that I've been watching them is in terms of buying Premier League proven players. Always. From Roy Keane to Eric Cantona to Michael Carrick to Wayne Rooney. You know, the anomalies that have existed, like Cristiano Ronaldo, that was obviously a literal unicorn. United have always gone for Premier League proven quality players. And that's when we've had our best transfers for me. There hasn't been any other sort of regular place that we've gone and bought people from that has been anywhere near as successful as buying Premier League proven. Manchester United had a bad season last year. I think that's undercooking it a little bit, but you know, let's call it what it is. It was a bad season. With how that all shook out, United have gone and identified that we didn't score enough goals. We knew that. I knew that. I think a lot of us knew that. Nothing special on my part. It was quite clear that this United side didn't have enough goals in it. They've got to the end of the season. They've gone Premier League goals in Cunha. Hopefully we get it over the line with Mbeumo, and it's Premier League goals and Mbeumo. And then Ollie Watkins got 17 goals and 14 assists. 31 goals and assists, and I think it was 41 League and Champions League starts last season. That is a just clear, obvious levelling up in terms of the goals in 3 players. You know, we didn't really have a right side inside forward last season. It was Garnacho and Højlund for pretty much the entire season was the 2 choices. You had Ahmad coming in and out, and you had a handful of other players that sort of rotated in and out. You signed those 3 if you actually get those 3 over. Because I mean, I'm talking like Watkins is done here. I'm talking like Mbeumo's done. That's not the case. There's interest in United in Watkins. They've got to offload Rasmus Højlund according to these reports, and that's a handful of others. But I like the thought of what's behind it. I like the intent that's behind it. Going for Premier League proven. Now, you have signed quite a lot of young players, and United's a very young squad. Ollie Watkins coming in as a 29-year-old with a lot of Premier League experience to lead that line, to link up with the players that are around him. Do I like the idea of that? Very much like the idea of that. 60 million's a lot for a player with 0 resale, because at 32, 33, after that first contract, you are not being able to move him on. Certainly not for money. This is like when you sign Berbatov for 30 million and he ends up going. You're just not. So it's going to be interesting to see how this one shakes out. I feel like it's real. I don't feel like this is just a random name that was slung out there. I know he said on Transfer Review on Saturday about, I'd like to see us just linked with some names that we can start talking about. It feels to me quite a considered name, Ollie Watkins. It doesn't feel like something that's just been flung out there willy-nilly. The other side of this with Rashford, there's a link with Bayern Munich, which was Christian Falk has kind of dismissed straight off the bat in terms of trying to move him on. There's talks about whether Aston Villa could take him here as part of any sort of a deal. I think that would be a good move from United, but his wages, as we know, as with all of these players, is becoming a little bit of an issue that is preventing us from moving these players on. And it's not just him, obviously, we've spoken about this already, but Sancho, to a greater or lesser extent Anthony, although I think he's really trying to get himself out. You've got obviously Rashford, Garnacho. These players that United are trying to move on that we are really struggling with moving on, and we're struggling because they're on enormous wages. If you want to go and match Marcus's wages, you've got the pick of pretty much every player in world football you could probably have for that budget. If you're Bayern Munich, you can literally go to anyone. Like you're a regular competitor in the Champions League. You are a regular competitor, or the reigning champions in Germany. You're always going to know that if you attract a player, you're going to be looking at quarterfinals, semi-finals, or final of the Champions League. You're probably going to go and win some silverware, even if you're Harry Kane. You can afford whatever wages because you're a well-run club. You can go and get any player in the world. Marcus Rashford at the moment, as much as I love him, or loved him, does not represent value for money if you're going to go and put somebody on 300, whatever it is a week that he's on. Now that might have been cut because of the lack of Champions League for Manchester United, but you're still talking 200, 250 grand, I would presume. Who's going to want to go and pay that for someone who for the last 18 months hasn't been able to get regular football for Manchester United, who've just come 15th? And that's the problem that all of these players have got right now, is that nobody wants them. And they're on such good money that no one's even willing to take a risk on them. Like, Delap gets relegated, but he's on like 25, 30 grand a week. So anyone can come in and go, it's worth us having a gamble on him because he's not on a lot. He's not going to cost us loads. You can give him an absolutely enormous pay rise and still have him under the budget. You bring in a Rashford or an Anthony or somebody like that. Because, Anthony, even Rasmus Højlund, like, there's teams that would take a gamble on him and think that he's a good player. But the wages that he's on, because because you sign someone for 70-something million pounds, you then can't put them on like 50 grand a year. They have to go on substantial wages to match the transfer fee, or their agent hasn't done their job. So it's a bit of an iffy one, isn't it? Either way, United are in for Ollie Watkins. I am all for it. I think that's a sensational potential buy for Manchester United. And if you can get Mbeumo and Watkins to go along with Cunha, you've completely levelled up the forward line. And that was all for me that this summer was about. Level up the forward line, bring in some goals, see what that does for us next season. Does that mean that we don't need another midfielder? No, didn't say that. Does that mean that we don't need a right wing back? I didn't say that. Does that mean that we don't need to bring in another keeper or strengthen in defence? I didn't say that. I just said we've levelled up the attack. And you can't do everything at once. But if you've managed to level the attack up in 3 players, 3 starters like that, I think you'll see a massive difference to us next season. Go get it done. Simple as.